I came and did the Masters of Data Science. So a quick introduction to me. So I am one of those people that have a very strong statistical background. Did my Masters in psychology and statistics back in the day, learned how to use R, which was really good. And then now I've got my Masters in Professional Studies in Data Science, and I'm also a bit of an expert in spatial analysis. It's a type of area of research that I've been involved in and really enjoy. Basically, my favourite jobs in the world are ones where nobody really knows what to do. That happens a lot at Tonkin and Taylor as well, and in my last job. So, projects or problems that no one really knows how to solve. But if we get enough good, smart people in the room, we can come up with some really good solutions. And that's what I'm very passionate about. So, as I said, I started doing natural hazard risk analysis back in 2004 after I'd done my Masters in Statistics and Psychology at Auckland Uni. I started off feeding pigeons in the HSC basement over there, doing selective stimulus control in the pigeon with Doug Elliff. But I really preferred statistics to psychology, so I did a lot more statistics papers. Then I got a job with Aon, which is a insurance reinsurance broker, global, and worked there for about 13 years. Basically, we built crop models all over for China and India, set up insurance programs in those countries that didn't really have insurance before, and did a whole lot of statistical modelling for that. Learned all about Monte Carlo simulations and things like that. And there's a list of all the sort of projects that I've been doing since then on. So starting off from my Aon stuff, which was working with governments to help them set up their insurance industries and looking at using satellite imagery as much as possible. Then basically begged Sebastian to let me into the Masters because I didn't actually have the prerequisites. So that was basically just ringing Sebastian up pretty much and begging, and he finally said yes, so that was very good. I did have to do some computer science projects because I'd never done any computer science and learn about big OM and never really want to know about that ever again, but it's actually been very useful for me knowing about that. And then after that, I pretty much got a job maybe within about 4 months of finishing my degree at Tonkin and Taylor, and now I'm a principal natural hazard risk consultant there. And I'm very lucky because Tonkin and Taylor, they put a lot of money into research and innovation. Every year they have these big dream lab projects, and anyone in the staff can say, this is a really good idea, can you give me some money to do a proof of concept? And so I'm really involved in all of that, and it's a testament to Tonkin and Taylor that they've prepared to put that money into research and development. So basically for the rest of the presentation, I'll probably just go through some of the cool projects that I've been doing for Tonkin and Taylor. I have to say, everything that I learned at the Masters of Data Science, I have pretty much managed to use in my career now, and it's been so useful and really good. It is a bit hard sometimes to convince people that a middle-aged woman know data science, but I'm getting there. All right, so this is a little one. This is sort of a pitch that we're sort of trying, but I just want to put that in because this is a computer-generated image because I'm really big. We use ChatGPT and DALL-E a lot at the moment. So this is something that we're sort of looking at doing with satellite imagery. So with radar satellite images, they send like a radar signal down, and it comes back up, and they measure how far it comes down, so you can measure the distance to the Earth from the satellite. The satellite goes around every week, takes a photo in exactly the same place, so you can see has that distance between the Earth and the satellite changed. You can detect it in millimetre differences. So our idea is, how can we use this to look at the national road highways? Can we detect potholes? Can we detect when there's been a big slip due to rainfall and that road is now unstable? Can we do all of that with the satellites? Because at the moment we sort of drive around, or people ring up and say there's a pothole, things like that, but is it something that can be detected? The other thing is that you can get a history. because going back, so which are the bits of road that often change a lot? Maybe you can start scheduling maintenance around which roads are more vulnerable to events or rainfalls and things like that. So that's my very exciting project, which we're sort of pitching. There's Whakakotahi person in the room, so please take note. This is another really interesting project. Someone gave it to me about 2 years ago, or like about 6 months after I started at Tonkin Taylor, said, oh, people have been looking at this for ages, we don't know what to do about it, can you help? So Tonkin Taylor, we do a lot of things like ground contamination, site investigation. So if you're going to build somewhere, you need to know what was there before. Was there a landfill? Things that you need to know about. And sometimes the only way to find those out is to go back and look at aerial images of New Zealand. And there's a really great thing that the Crown surveys, so the government pays for surveys that every 4 or 5 years, and they basically go across a particular region and they take aerial images in a set way across each region. So we've got fantastic aerial images going back to maybe even the 40s, I like to think, but a long way back. Obviously the resolution changes, and those are there. And they're quite good, but they're not analysis ready. They're just images, they're JPEGs, they're not georeferenced, we don't really know where they are. All you get is this picture here, and you get a JSON file. So one of the things that we said, we've got these coordinates over here, but they're not right. They're out by 200 metres, 200 a kilometre sometimes. It's supposed to be somewhere in the middle of the image, it's not always. But all of this stuff you can scrape from the JSON file, so you can say, right, I want an image from 1984, and I need it to be within this square of area. And so then we can go, we wrote some code that goes through all the JSON files. We use that to construct a URL, and then we can automatically download. So someone can say to me, well, they can say, I want an image from this year in this location. We can click a tab and it goes, finds all the images that satisfy that criteria and downloads them. So that was quite exciting, but not as exciting as this bit. So when you download them, they're not georeferenced, like I said, but so that's not, we can't necessarily put them into our mapping programs or stuff like that, so we have to georeference them. And at the moment, people do that manually. Maybe takes between half an hour to an hour to do it, depending on how experienced and where it is. But we had a look using the SIF formula. This is an open source algorithm. It is now. It was copyrighted, but now it's open source, and we're using OpenCV computer vision programs in Python. And what this does, it basically tries and finds features in the images, like corners, buildings, roofs, things like that. And so if you've got images, all the Crown images overlap by 60 degrees, so 60%. So if you can find an image in one and you can find the same image in another, then you can match them up and you get all of these things like that, and then we can sort of overlay all that, and then we can sort of get a huge mosaic of, say, Auckland, which is all overlaid, automatically spatial overlaid, and then we can probably try and georeference it to a base layer, or it means that we just have to georeference one image out of, say, the 100 from the Crown survey, and they're all done because we've mosaicked them all. And again, all this stuff, it's just constructing URLs, scraping stuff, searching through JSONs, quite not hard stuff to do, but it's been super useful for us. We're using it in a project at the moment, so it's really, it's very good. Other things that we do a lot of work up in the islands, in the Pacific Islands, construction work. And for this project, we were trying to work out what roads were vulnerable to erosion. And a lot of that was based on the soil type and the slope aspect, things like that. And we got all these images, and these were old PDFs, really old images, PDFs that had been scanned in, And I found out that someone was just going to trace it, put a piece of paper over and try and trace it and manually sort of try and classify these. These are all different geological soil types in here. And I said, well, we can't do that because that's far too old school for us. So what we did is we had a bit of competition between myself and a couple of the younger grads at TNT to see what we could do. And I was using a k-means. Alex won. He used a XG boost algorithm. And you can see we've gone from this to that. And this does seem like it might be easy, but when we did this there's this special way that you use to draw maps, and it's got like hash lines. And you've got lines that go this way and lines that go that way. Some are vertical. So you can't just necessarily find all of the vertical lines and take them out. This is actually quite a lot of texture in the image that you might not be able to see, so it was quite hard, but after a bit of practice, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this though was we spent a lot of time cleaning the image, and 80% of data science is cleaning data. Don't forget that, it's really important. But we used OpenCV to just sort of blur all of the stuff, so we could sort of blur some of those hash lines out and do all that. But there was a lot, like almost all of it was data cleaning, and then once we got it into that, we put the XG boost algorithm on it, and everyone was very happy with that, and nobody had to get their tracing paper out. And then this is something that I've been working on for a long time. Claims assessment in insurance is really expensive, and particularly in areas that are hard to get to, remote, smaller areas. And sometimes if you're assessing a claim, the claims assessment can be almost as much as the claim, depending on how hard it is to get out there, who you need to go out there and things like that. So for quite a while we've been looking at how can we actually map damage using remote sensing or aerial images, satellite images, UAV images, things like that. So we thought, after Cyclone Gabriel, EQC asked us to come up with some maps because they were going to take a helicopter out and fly over so they could look at the areas that were most impacted. And so Tonkin and Taylor was to provide maps for them to aware of the areas that were biggest. And we were just lucky that Sentinel-1 came over the night of the Cyclone Gabriel, basically at the peak flooding time, which was fantastic. And the other great thing about radar is it can see through all the clouds. So we downloaded images from before, the week before, and we downloaded the images after the flooding, and we basically could detect, and we produced this map. It was all done automatically. We wrote the code to automatically download the images. Now we can use it again. You can just bung in any area that you want. It can find dates. It goes onto the European Union's Space Agency website, which has got really nice APIs that you can use. And we did set a hard set of a threshold for the flooding, but other than that, everything was automatically done from downloading the images to producing this map. And now we can use it again, which is fantastic. How long have I got? I'm just basically, and then this is another really exciting one that we're doing now. Another one, again, we wanted to look at river morphology. It's really important to see how the channel in the river is changing, especially down in some of the big rivers where irrigation is being used, because we want to know, is that flow being changed because of irrigation? Is there less flow than there should be? Things like that. But the flow just changes anyway due to rainfall events and things like that. So you've got to try and work out, what was it due to rainfall? Was it due to irrigation practices, things like that. So we started using Segment Anything, which is pretty amazing, and it was pretty good. It was really, really good. But the thing it couldn't do is, like, if you've got like some bush or shrubs overhanging the river, they sort of cast a shadow, and you can't tell, is it a bush, is it shadow, or is it dark water? And those things, Segment Anything can get most of it, but it can't get that bit. So that's what we were looking at, and I'll just put that in there, that there's some, you can use both colour, but images also have texture, and the texture is almost like how much they change, you know. So like if you think of, I don't know, a shrub, the amount of variation in the colour is different than if you're looking at like a tarmac, which is just basically the same colour and the same texture. So you can actually extract information about texture from images, and this is more around the standard, you know, variation in the, I guess it's the variation in the colours and things like that. So that's what we're doing now. So we started sort of looking at this last year. This was a Dreamland project that Tom and Taylor said, yep, here's 10 grand, go and see what you can do with it. We sort of got as good as we could, but now we're working with Wellington Water, and we're actually mapping the river morphology of quite a few of their big rivers. We've got a team from Massey University, they're doing it manually, and we're going to be doing it automatically at the same time. So that's going to be really good. We're going to have ground control points, we're going to be able to test whether we're correct and things like that. I've just put those up. These are freely, I didn't even have to do anything for these. This is freely downloaded from satellite imagery from the European Union. They automatically do stuff like this for you. You can just download it and start using it as you like. All right. And now this is knowledge graphs. As I said, knowledge graphs really sort of blew my mind a little bit when I went to data science. That was sort of my favourite thing that I really learnt about. And yeah, so I totally encourage you to find out about data science. You all use, data science, knowledge graphs. You all use it all the time. Every time you look up Google, anything you do like that, you know, it's a knowledge graph is behind all of that stuff. So I try and get a knowledge graph into almost all my projects, and I've managed to get them into 2. So we have like an in-house bot, so we have a large language model. I think a lot of companies are doing this now because if you use ChatGPT, you could have to give it client data, and anything you give ChatGPT is automatically public. So we can't really use it in our day-to-day work. So we've got our own large language model that runs on-prem or on-site, and it's totally, it's all, everything there is private and secure. And basically what we did is we just gave it all our documents and said, searched through all our files, scanned all our, got all our documents and gave it to the large language model and got it to learn everything that we know. And now we can ask it questions. And it's really good, but it is a large language model and it's based on probability. So sometimes it gives you the wrong answer. Quite often it can give you the wrong answer. It doesn't like saying, no, I don't know that. It just says, here you go. I've asked it things like, who won the tennis in 2025? And it tells me, which is pretty amazing. Let's see if it's right. So my idea, and sorry?
It's just probability.
Yeah, well, it could be right. Forrest Figure, yeah. Hopefully he does play tennis.
He might win a court case.
So I had this idea a while back, and now Microsoft have come out with their own idea, which is very similar, and it's not just my idea. I follow this guy called Thomas Bratz, who talks a lot about knowledge graphs and Neo4j and how they can be used. So this is sort of trying to say that we've got your large language models down here, which basically take all of your documents, make big vectors out of all of them, paragraphs or sentences and doctors, and all your documents. That gets put into this huge big index, and you can ask questions. But we don't want questions that are wrong, and we want to be able to know whether it's true or not, and also we want to be able to make sure it's relevant to the question that we want. So the idea is, can we use all of those documents that we have to extract entities, relationships, entities being who are our clients, who are the people who worked on projects, what buildings did we look at, anything was an entity, and then the relationships between them, who worked on which project, what tasks did people do, we do a lot of climate change assessments for different councils and things like that. What's all that knowledge that we actually know? And we want to try and build like a semantic graph on top of our bot. So basically, instead of just searching straight in the vector index, we can use either the knowledge graph either to narrow the search space, so we're only looking at the most relevant stuff, or we can say whatever we got back from the language model, does that fit with the semantics that we know is true in our graph? So we can do some checking on that. So that's a very exciting thing that I'm going to be getting into over the next year or so, because we've built our bot now, and now we've got to get that semantic layer on top. And this is another graph, knowledge graph that I managed to get into a project. I'm working on a project with the European Union. Not quite sure how we managed to get this one, because most of these people are universities. But Tonkin and Taylor has a really good reputation around disaster risk reduction. And this whole project was about making data fair. Now, I've never heard of fair data before. And the idea of fair data is it's findable, it's accessible, it's interoperable, and it's reusable. So it's got to be logged somewhere on the internet so you can find it. Have some sort of APIs and things around so it's easy to download, but also know what are those license arrangements and things like that. Interoperable basically means can a machine read it? We want to get to a point where our data is ready for a machine to just use without any interaction between humans. And metadata is the key to that. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about metadata and data models for disaster risk reduction and how to get the data fair. And there's all these different, all of these different working packages are doing the same thing. How can we find out what state the data is in for all of these scientific disciplines, and how can we improve it and make it fair? And one of the things I did was these are all the different fair elements, and these are sort of resources that all the different disciplines use to make their data fair. Do they use DataCite? Do they use DOIs? What search engines do they use? Things like that. And we wanted to know, which are the ones that everybody uses. So all of those 12 working packages, these ones here in the middle there, that's what almost everyone uses, those ones. And then you can see different working packages might have closer relationships. And then the next part of the project is going to be, how do we sort of make those resources interoperable? So we know that most people use this one, one of these, but one of these work packages doesn't, but they use one that's quite similar. How can we maybe modify the structure or the schema involved in that so that they become compatible with each other? And then everybody all over the world for all the different scientific disciplines can start sharing their data, and it's already in a format that everybody can use, which is an amazing dream. You can find out more about the project on there. It's just winding up at the moment. And what else have I got to show? Oh yeah, so this is a very statistical one that we're doing. Sorry, I'm going on too long. With the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure and the Asian Disaster Prevention Centre. And we're trying to get sort of both direct losses. So direct losses is a building falls down and you have to rebuild it. That's your direct losses. But the indirect losses are that building's closed now for 2 weeks. How many people were running a business in that building? How many people did they keep their jobs? How much money did they lose from not being able to operate? If people have to go around, the bridge is out, so they have to travel for 2 hours instead of 1 hour, maybe in Auckland 3 hours or something. How much does that cost the economy for all of those things to happen? And that's quite hard. But if we can get a way of connecting, and the correlation is very interesting. We're using copular correlations, which allow you to use non-linear correlations that change with the severity of the disaster. If we can get those together, then maybe we can start simulating the total losses. And the idea is that governments can actually understand how much these catastrophes actually cost them. And then when they do that, they can say, well, we can do cost-benefit analysis on that. You know, should we put in some mitigation here, because that will save a lot of stuff, or is this going to be a risk too high that we have to buy in some reinsurance and things like that. But it allows you to make decisions based on what those actual values might be. This is a bit of a dream of how it should be, and it's a work in process. A lot of the time we're just sort of putting in what we could do if we had the data that was available, that we need to do it, because it's quite hard to get data for things like that. So those are all the projects that I thought I'd give you a whirlwind tour of what I've been up to since I left uni. And like I said, I'm just using everything I learned, all the statistics papers. I did this one of my lecturers up there. Sebastian's papers, it's just really, really helped my career. It's been really good. And the thing I'm really interested in now is this idea of data fusion. You know, we've got data, different sources, different formats, different resolutions. How can we start getting all of those so we can put them all in as variables into machine learning? So how can we get spatial data, but we also have, you know, data on ground control plans that are measuring the movement of the earth. That's not spatial, but we can turn it spatial. How do we get them so that they're all formatted in a way that they can easily be put? And I think this is a really interesting thing that I think might be the future a bit. We can be using it a lot more in the future. We're sort of thinking about, we're doing a nationwide landslide map, and so you have things like slope, you have things like soil characteristics, vegetation, rainfall, the type of, I don't know, cliffs that you have, all of this data. How can we start getting all of these layers so then we can start doing machine learning with huge amounts of variables in them? So that's it. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Good questions for Jill? We can take our time, we have some buffer. Any questions? Maybe I asked.
It was a bit of a whirlwind, wasn't it?
No, it was really good actually. Jill, if you could go back to university and study a course or something, what would that look like?
It would probably be a PhD in knowledge graph. So
yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? I'll give the plug for Tonkin & Taylor. We have a great graduate intern program. If you're interested in sort of being part of that, you can email us or email me and see. We have a big data science department. We've generally been traditionally engineers, but you know, the data is just so vast, you can't be doing it on a spreadsheet with a ruler anymore. So we need data science graduates too. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.